You're listening to the Simply Strategic Ministry podcast. Our goal is to help you grow your ministry through simple strategies and scalable systems. With over a decade of ministry experience, we know that these strategies and systems will bring value to you as a leader and to your entire team.
Well, hey, thanks for joining us on another episode of the Simply Strategic Ministry podcast. I think I'm most excited about this episode because it's with somebody that I've gotten to know pretty well. Man, what's it, like almost a year, more than that? I mean, we've been connected longer than that.
Yeah.
But with Dupri, we've been in a coaching relationship for a while now. And on the podcast today to just talk about healthy leadership specifically, I think one of the things we're going to dive deep in today is finding balance. Is balance a myth? How do you find balance in the personal life, ministry life? But man, introduce yourself. Yeah. I know that you're working today and you got kiddos running around and all that stuff. And so today's a good topic to dive in, but introduce yourself. Tell us a little bit about who you are and how you're a college football player.
Yeah.
Which I just found out because I Googled your name to make sure that I had your right title because you're such a hard worker. Your title changes all the time. Yeah. Just like you get new jobs. But and I saw your what is it, New Mexico?
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah. Anyway, okay, enough for me. Dupri Wells, man. Tell us who are you?
Man, yeah, absolutely, Patrick. You know, I call you Pastor Patrick, man. Just you've been such an influence in my life, an investor, and just want to show some honor to you, man. But yeah, so I basically I just go backtrack, played college football, high school football in Texas, born and raised in San Antonio, Texas. So did that for a little bit. And then so I had an opportunity to play Division I football. Obviously that didn't work out too well. So I went Division II. So I played at Eastern New Mexico University, a town that you don't want to go. It's terrible. It's horrible. Green chili is everything there in New Mexico. Okay. So I was there for about 2 years, man, and got in a really bad car accident. Car flipped 9 times. I was ejected out the car. And then kind of my life just did a 180 flip, 180 change. And when moved back down to San Antonio, met my wife, got into an internship program, got into ministry, and kind of just following God, just following the steps and stuff, man. And here I am today in Long Island, New York. I'm the Next Gen pastor, student ministry pastor. So I oversee our whole Next Gen department from youth, young adults to kids to junior high, even college ministry as well. So the grind's real, man. Been super busy, but it's awesome. It's really, really cool as well. But that's kind of my history. Been in ministry for about 7 to 8 years, but just growing and learning, and learning from you, Pastor. So glad to be on, man.
No, dude, I'm learning from you. I'm learning from you, man. You've got it going on. So yeah, Next Gen Ministry, you're at a context now where you have multiple campuses.
Yeah.
New York is different.
Yes.
We've talked about that a lot. And man, you're just crushing it. And one of the things that we've talked about that I want to dive into and just freshen up is a little bit of starting with you, right? Yeah. And when we did our first discovery session, we did that ideal week. And so, man, a little bit, how are you doing in that fight for that work-life balance and even just your pace and your schedule now? I mean, give me a little bit of a brain dump, maybe a little of an emotional, spiritual dump. What's working, what's not, what's a struggle, and I guess, do you feel healthy?
Yeah, man, I think right now where I'm at, I do feel healthy. If you were checked in, maybe, or did a self-check, I did a self-check on me, man, I would say I was probably not healthy, man. Just to be transparent, just with you. I know we talked, and you have helped me a lot, Pastor, with scheduling and being organized and almost, how can I word this? But
militant.
Just get it organized. Yeah, get it organized with my schedule and almost saying my schedule tells people no.
Mm-hmm.
People look at my schedule as like, oh, no, he's unavailable at this time. But, obviously building or helping to build a second location was added to my plate. So obviously I have all the next gen ministries that I got to oversee, plus youth ministry, plus college ministry. Building another location was added to my job description. So it was late nights, man. I was getting home from 9 to 10 o'clock, and my whole balance and my whole work schedule, my whole flow just crumbled because now
Yeah.
I'm working longer hours and stuff like that. And so now I'm getting back into place because that's seasons, right? We talked about this,
Yeah.
Pastor, where it's not like a every month or every week thing. It was like maybe 3 to 4 months. We're grinding it out.
Right.
Now that we just launched our second location, now we could kind of take a deep breath. We were up in a plane, and now we're coming down just a little bit. And I'm sure, because my pastor is always thinking locations, we're thinking about a third location. So guess what? We're going to about to get up again. And so, but right now where I'm at too is, man, I got to get back organized. And I always say this: life is always going to bring stress. It's
That's
just
right.
how you handle it and how you go about it. And so my schedule is just adjusting. My daughter's adjusting. She's growing up. So that's changing. Ministry is changing.
She
So,
is beautiful, by the way.
oh
She is.
man, I appreciate that. It's our mom.
But
So
always
yeah, man.
mama.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
Yeah. Yeah,
So
dude, I think you said something that's good. And let me ask this and think about this for a second. We talk about like seasons.
yeah,
One of the ways that like I want to help, and I talk to a lot of guys about this, and honestly, when you talk about that self-check, that's so good. Like I'll self-check me,
mm,
is seasons change.
yeah,
It's like you think about kind of the season now of like fall when we're recording this, and
yeah.
probably New York is so much more beautiful in the fall than Texas, but like,
It's
the
gorgeous.
leaves change colors, but then they come back and they're green again.
Yeah,
And it's like sometimes we're looking at brown dead leaves
mm,
that never change and never go back green, and we're like, it's just a season. It's like, hey, but seasons change.
yeah,
you know like
yeah,
I feel like sometimes we can get stuck in something, and we're just telling ourselves this is a season, it's a season, it's a season. And I
yeah,
don't know, I don't really want to be the definitive voice on how long a season lasts or doesn't, because God works over periods of time. But I think sometimes you got to remind yourself, you may be not in a season. You may be stuck in a rut or something.
yeah. Right.
And so when you do that self-reflect, how are you self-reflecting in a way that reinforces or encourages you of like, hey, this is just a season, we're going to push on?
Yeah,
Does that make
that's a
sense
really
a little
good.
bit? Like
Yeah, a
like
little bit.
how are you leading?
Say that question again, Pastor.
Yeah. Like when you're doing that self-reflect,
Yeah,
how are you guarding yourself against, okay, I need to identify, am I stuck
mm,
or is this truly a season? So maybe there's a light at the end of the tunnel and I can see it coming, and I know that there's going to be a time for me to catch my breath again and whatever. Or am I just stuck in really, really unhealthy rhythms?
yeah. Man, it's tough. I think identifying the season and identifying the unhealthy rhythms, like you just talked about, but it's having that moment where I'm a processor, and so I will
Okay.
sit in my emotions and process things, and I'm thinking to myself, because a lot of times I'm thinking, oh, this is just a season. A lot of the
Mm,
times it's not the season, it's me. It's
okay.
me not having those healthy rhythms and not being organized or wherever the case may be. So I think a lot of times, Pastor, the I think a lot of times I do point the finger at the seasons, or I think a lot of leaders might do that, but really it's us. It's taking a look inside of us, like, man, I got to get healthy. I got to learn how to be organized, or I got to learn how to say no, or put, kind of draw a line in the sand. And so for me, it's just taking a moment just to reflect on that. And it's not easy, man. It's not easy because we easily could point the seasons, but it's really at the end of the day, it's probably most likely us,
Yeah.
but
So when you're in that cycle of unhealth, or maybe even just super busy, and maybe another location's open up, and man, you oversee a lot, you do a lot. What are some of the first things in you to suffer? Like, what maybe even some stuff that even Lindsay, like what does she notice in you of like, hey, this may be an indicator that this isn't the season but we're kind of stuck.
Yeah,
Like, is
man,
there any kind of personal trait?
yeah, when my wife is texting me, it's like, "Hey, we need you home."
Yeah.
You know, it's
Yeah.
like, "Hey, hey, today's your day off. You shouldn't be working." Like she's almost holding me accountable. It's like, you know what? She's right.
Mhm.
That's not the seasons. Those are Dupri things, and things that
Yeah.
like I said, I just got to put my foot down. And she's identifying things as like, hey, like you gotta say no. You gotta. This is your day off. Be off.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I'm
Yeah.
like, you're right. I gotta be off. I gotta take a break. If I don't take a break, I will break eventually. And so I'm
Hmm.
just learning that, man, I have to spend time on myself and with my family and or those that I love to spend time with. And my wife is the author of correction. It's not her, but it's me, like I said. But yeah, man,
Yeah.
just her just correcting me and telling me just to be off, just to
Yeah.
be off and enjoy life. Because obviously, you know, Pastor, you have, you know, you got 2 kids, 3 kids,
3. She's 8 months now. So
three.
I got
Yeah, man.
7, 5, and 8, almost 9 months.
Lord bless you. May the
Yeah, I
Lord.
received. We're gonna have a time of prayer after this.
Yeah, yeah, right. And so, yeah, man, it's obviously like I said, your kids are growing up.
Mm.
They're growing up so fast, and I want to spend every second, every minute that I have with my daughter on a day off, and just to spend time with her and just immerse myself in my family time.
So let's deep dive into that for a second, because I think, let me like lovingly do the heart surgery, because
Yeah,
I think sometimes either we're addicted to the work and the grind,
hmm
or we're not productive enough in the work hours to take the time. Does that make sense?
hmm
So, like, the thing that I think I see a lot and hear a lot in people is kind of like this. Um, you ever been sitting around the office and like you get in, and this can be a hypothetical for everyone listening, but like if you were to leave early or on time, people would be like, well, you weren't working.
yeah, yeah,
I kind of view it as a flex when I do leave early, of like, no, I just got more done than you today.
yeah,
Like
yeah.
I can leave early because I got a lot done. So I guess I'm saying that to set it up of like, do you feel like for you, like when you're grinding on that off day, is it because part of you is maybe not addicted, maybe that's a strong word, but part of you is you're just so in it? Or
Mm,
is it part of you of like, man, I just feel like I'm not accomplishing enough in the work week that I have to work on the off day?
yeah. That's a really good question. I think I'm trying to word this the best I can. I know we're recording, so I'm trying to be transparent but not
Yeah,
dishonoring.
sure.
I think Pastor on this one, I know when to take a break. I know when to turn it off. Um, I think a lot of times people could project that you're not doing enough.
Sure.
If that makes sense, right?
Yeah,
It's
you could be in an extremely hard work culture.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and so I guess in my context is that in New York it's grind, it's
That's
fast
right.
pace, it's shotgun, it's Texas Tech, it's Oregon football
Hmm.
lifestyle here in New York, and for me it's like I got to keep up.
So when you're working, and you see yourself on those off days working, are you giving, to say it this way, steal it a little bit, from, I've heard it said this way before, when you're cheating from the family to give to work,
hmm
do you find that you're also cheating from work to give back to the family at all? Like, is there any space for you to do that?
Oh man, it's I don't know. I don't know. That's a good question. Um, I do feel sometimes I'm cheating my family a little bit, and but also feel like I'm cheating work. It's that tension a
Yeah.
little bit. And
I
so
think one of the, yeah, sorry, go ahead.
no, I'm just constantly finding that, and
Yeah.
I'm choosing, and this is where I'm becoming healthier, is that I'm choosing my family first, because at
Hmm.
the end of the day, my family is my first ministry.
That's right. That's
And
right.
listen, I this might be kind of harsh, but at the end of the day, it's kind of like the football game. At the end of the day, people's gonna forget. People's not gonna remember your name, but your family will. And then
That's
that's
right.
for me. It's like at the end of the day, the kids are not gonna remember my message. Um, once I'm gone 20, 30 years later, they're not gonna remember me. Maybe they do, but my
Hmm.
daughter and my family will always remember me. And so I'm just keeping that in the back of my mind, that I was like, you know what? My family comes first, because that's what God has called me to do, is to love and lead my family. So
Yeah. Yeah. And I think, and I don't think that it has to be either or, like I'm not a believer that like the family's always sacrificed on the altar of ministry and ministry's always sacrificed on the altar of family. Like I
yeah,
think there is a way to do both.
yeah,
And like, so for me personally, and I think this could be practice for you and anybody listening, like up to the availability of it, is like, I tried to, I mean, I'm about to be 31, still doing student ministry life and schedule with three
yeah,
kids.
yeah,
So for me, one of the things I like to try to do is bring them with me as much as I can,
yeah,
like if
yeah,
I'm going to do a chapel, I might bring my son, if I'm going to go
yeah,
to a football game, like my family, is going to come to the game, like
yeah,
that type of
yeah,
stuff, like conferences and events and all that stuff. Like, man, if we have
mm,
bounce houses, like I'm scheduling to get there like an hour early because it doesn't cost extra. And I'm going to turn them on and let my kids come up and play on the stuff as long as they want, like they're
yeah,
going to get free merch. They're going to get free, like all that stuff, and try and give back a little bit. But I think the other thing that's been a real hack for me personally, and I'm interested to hear kind of your rhythm, is that's why I get up early. Like I don't get up early because Jocko. Like I get up
yeah,
early so that way I can have more time.
yeah,
And so like I get up early and make my kids breakfast and hang out, and we walk quiet around the house so we don't wake up the baby. And we're doing cereal and pancakes and all that stuff, and I'm trying to be fun dad because they get me in that time. Does that make
yeah,
sense?
right.
So how are you creating some of that extra time?
Mm.
Like, are you an early guy? You late guy? Like what are you specifically doing?
Yeah, yeah. So my my wife and my daughters are late people. So
Yeah.
they're up late because I'm getting home late.
Yeah.
And so I actually had to adjust my schedule. I was getting up early, but guess what? My daughter was sleeping into 10 o'clock.
Mhm.
It's just, and so I have to learn to adjust. So I get up early, read my Bible, put on YouTube. I put some scriptures, Bible verses, repeating on the YouTube channel, whatever. And a lot of times I'm getting home and spending time with my family, and kind of leveraging that a little bit, because I don't get to see my daughter because she's sleeping,
Yeah.
majority of the time when I'm up in the morning. And so I get that done, working out, you know, um, getting stuff done. Like right now, I'm in parent coaching classes.
Yeah.
So learning how to be a parent, coaching, learning the whole science. So I'm doing homework during that time when my daughter sleeps. So I'm trying to leverage my time, especially in that morning when it's quiet. It's not a lot of running around or daddy or, hubby, babe. It's like, you
Yeah.
know what? I'm spending time with myself. I'm spending time in the word. I'm spending time on getting stuff done in the morning. But on the flip side, I understand that when I get home, it's family time.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. Well, I think, dude, maybe just a practical thing that seems easy, but is going to have to be a fight is I think you just have to plant the flag on that day off.
yeah,
Like, and maybe that's a little nuanced, maybe for some context of like a work hard culture and all those things. But I mean, I think even if you're talking about one day, you're one day versus six, you
mm-hmm.
know,
Yeah,
but like you gotta fight for that. And then I think to do that well and to do that honoring and to do that in a way where you don't lose productivity is we go back to some of the exercises we've worked before. And that is, okay, well, let's look at your work days.
Yep.
Like, are you getting, like, right now, what's your green zone? Where's your most energy at? What hours are those?
Yeah, my green zone will be from, if you're looking at my work schedule, is 9 to 4 technically. But in my context, it's probably 9 to 6, kind of my
Okay.
green zone. Yeah.
And you think that during 9 to 6, you're the most green, like that you're on, like you're high energy all the time, always?
No, absolutely
Okay.
not.
Okay. So
Absolutely
what
not.
is that in that green zone? Like, where's your high energy? Like, you're just crushing it.
Man, 9 to, depending if we got meetings, but 9 to 1, I'm like, I'm getting things done. I'm like
Yeah.
in the zone. I'm locked in, emails, all that stuff. Yeah.
Are you putting your highest impact work in your highest energy time? Or are you putting your busy work in your highest energy time?
My busiest work.
So I would say you got to flip that.
Yeah.
Like, you got to go 9 to 1. What's the highest impact stuff for me to do? And now,
Yeah.
granted, unless like we're the leader, we're always, all of us, everyone listening, everyone watching, we're always going to have to play around global meetings, right? Like,
Yeah.
you can't get out of the all staff, or, when your senior pastor says, hey, we're all going to meet in the lobby. It's like, okay, we're all meeting. I mean, we've done that so many times to each other. Like, hey, we're going to call. Oh, wait, I got to go to something. You got to go to something.
Right. Yep.
But you, like, so that 9 to 1, that green zone, we got to start filling that full of the high impact stuff. So, like,
Yeah.
off the top of your head, what's some of your most high impact work? Like, some of the things that only you can do.
Yeah. So obviously sermon content, that's something that I have to, I get to
Yep.
do. Really scheduling out meetings. So we used to have a kind of a system. We don't have that anymore. So now I'm scheduling out meetings. I'm scheduling out my week. I'm delegating, information. So the first thing in the morning, I'm already processing up in the morning what I need to get done. So I'm
That's
like,
right.
okay, I need to delegate this. I need to get this out. I need to share this information. So that's kind of really, it's communication. I'm like over communicating to everyone that I know to get things done because I can't do it alone. I got to delegate. So, but that's been super helpful for me in the first thing in the morning. So sermon content, really, whatchamacallit, what I just said.
Communication.
Communication, getting stuff. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So here's something I want you to do, and we can talk about this the next time that we meet. I want you to think about, like, write down that list of every single thing you do in a week and try to be as detailed as possible. And then highlight the things that are the most high value thing. And then go back to your ideal week. And so I know everyone who's watching or listening didn't get to be in that meeting, but we follow an ideal week that we really kind of like, and Dupri has tweaked it for himself. That tells a day, it has a specific meeting. So, like, hey, on Monday, I'm doing my meetings. On Tuesday, I'm doing my task oriented stuff. On Wednesday, I'm wrapping stuff up. Different though for you, because your context is you meet Friday night. And so even your off day and your Sabbath days are different than probably most of the people listening. But the concept is the same. And then look at those days and stuff the high value stuff in your high energy zones.
Yeah.
And then think about, okay, so if there's green, then there's also yellow. So when are you like meh? Like 9 to 1, you're green, but when are you kind of just like, I'm not great, but I'm not terrible?
Yeah. Right after lunch.
Yeah.
Right.
Right?
You get a good meal, and next you know, it's like, oh, snap.
It's like, I can do some stuff. I can kind of do some emails. I can look at some spreadsheets. Like, I can kind of do that. But if you want me to be with people, or if you want me to dream about something, no way. So that's probably for you. I'm going to guess mid 2 o'clock, something like that. And then after that, you're just dead.
Yeah.
Right?
2 to 4. Yeah, I'm done. Don't talk to me. Just kidding.
Yeah. So no, dude, I mean, lean into that. So I would say, so here's the thing that kind of wrecked me in that is, like, why are you doing, like, unless it's like a, an angry parent or something that really is like an important email or communication piece. But, like, I'm not doing email in the morning anymore because I'm green in the morning.
Yeah.
Like, so I'm going to give, like, if it's content, budget, staff,
Yep.
or serve team, those are the 4 things for me that get my green zones.
Mm.
My yellow zone is going to get some of my like admin type of work, like managing the team and projects through Asana, or like maybe editing a video or taking a phone call, or, you know, something like that. And my red zone, which for me is after 3, dude, you get me after 3 to 4:30, it ain't worth nothing, you know?
Yeah.
And so I'm trying to do all my office work in there, you know? So
Say that again.
Asana, receipt.
Say that green zone.
Yes.
That budget.
Yes. So my green zone for me is money. So when I'm doing budgeting, forecasting, any of that kind of stuff, content, whether that's sermon content,
Yeah.
or even like communication content that's going out in emails to parents or whatever, like copy, you know, like I'm writing that stuff in creative, any kind of that creative copy, creative content. So money, content, people. So serve team. So
Yep.
like I am much more a, hey, let's get coffee, or like, let's get a breakfast.
Yeah.
Just because I'm alive, like I'm alive in the morning.
Yeah.
Or I might like call people, you know, like
Yeah.
sometimes if you're running low, here's a free tip. If you're running low on budget money, a phone call is free. We talked about this
Yep.
with, doing those phone calls, for some parenting stuff.
Yeah.
Phone calls are free. And then my staff. So I lead a team of 5, a ministry coordinator. We actually added a new person since last we talked, a resident in girls ministry, a girls minister, a middle school pastor, and a high school pastor.
Wow.
That's a lot of people to love and lead and make sure they're at their best, you know? So
Yeah.
like they get my morning time too. And nothing else gets my morning unless my executive pastor or senior pastor say, hey, let's meet about something.
I have a question on this, Pastor.
Yeah.
You know, you talked about emails. What do you guys use for at your church and your work environment? Do you guys use Slack? Do you guys use, what is your kind of your fast, quick communication? Because for us, we use emails, but a lot of times I get those Slack notifications. The next thing I'm working on a project, I'm working on systems and my sermon content or creative content, and I go to the Slack channel. I'm like, oh dang, I forgot to do this, or hey, I need to get this done. And next thing you know, I get sidetracked, or it takes me 34 minutes to get back to my. So how do you work with that? I guess that's kind of.
Well, I think it's a good question, and let me frame it inside of the conversation of just being a healthy leader and having boundaries and balance, because for us, email is not instant. And so for us, email is about 24 hours. Now, again, don't meet me in the comments, people. Okay. Like, I get it. If my senior pastor emails me and it's something big, or somebody's in the hospital, like I got an email the other day, a serve team member and a good friend of mine, there's this medical situation. And so, yeah, like that's going to be quick, but email is more formal, and longer to respond to. Like I can get away with that within 24 hours. After that, it would be Slack. And Slack is all that kind of rapid fire. Then we use Asana, which is a task management system. I think we've talked about this before.
Yep.
And so that's kind of like within the day. Slack and Asana are within the day, instead of like going to the next day, like 24 hours, like, hey, well, you kind of need to get all this, at least thumbs up me and let me know, you're working on it or whatever. And then we try not to go text message. And the reason that is because if you're texting about work, you're texting me about work when I'm home.
It's good.
And so for me, just kind of setting those boundaries of like, you can text me, you can call me. But even like last night, like we were texting and it was after a certain time and I just let it go and then hit you back up in the morning, be like, hey, I was out with the fam, like, cause I'm trying to build that into my life. I just think there's so many times we think that it's urgent, it's going to fall apart if we don't respond right away. And so
Right.
using those apps and those systems kind of helps take away, you know, the home communication. Does that make sense? A little bit of like,
Yeah.
that way I know if you are texting me after 5 or you're trying to call me, it's probably important, you know, like there might be something, and that kind of helps me shut down. And then the other thing is, when you go home, hopefully you're turning your email off and your Slack off and your Asana off. So that way, if someone else is still working, I'm not getting blown up when I'm home, like looking at my phone all the time. Then Kylie Joe's like, "Hey, this
Exactly.
is the living room, not your office. Like, what's up?" You
Yeah.
know?
That's really good. I
Yeah.
think today too, I was telling my wife this, Pastor, where, you look back in, I don't know, the 60s or 70s where they didn't have a cellular device. You have to pick up the phone, call,
Yeah.
or it was really no communication, really just the home phone. And I think a lot of times, I think even more today, Pastor, myself included, I mean, probably leaders and people almost have to build up more boundaries today
Yeah.
with the cellular device and computers, and people could communicate to us whenever they want, however they want, from Instagram, the phone, text messages, Slack, all that.
And I think you have to, you as in you, and you as in me, and you as in everyone listening, have to get to a place where you're not emotionally blurring the lines.
Mm-hmm.
Because I think sometimes I can get that, if I'm being honest, I can get that after hours email, open it, boom, and then I have an emotional reaction.
Yeah.
You know, and it's something bad or it's a problem that needs to be fixed.
Right.
And then all of a sudden, like, my family dinner is ruined.
Yeah. Yeah.
And because now I'm trying to be like, what'd you say, Phoebe? Okay, well, daddy's whatever.
Yeah.
So I think if, I think balance is a myth personally.
Mm-hmm. I agree.
Because everyone who ever talks to me about balance, I've never met someone who's found it.
Right.
And when I think about balance, I think about subtraction. Like, I'm going really hard at work, and so I need to pull back from work so that way family can be even. Or I'm going really hard with my family, and so I need to pull back from family so work can get some effort too.
Yeah.
And I personally believe in and try and approach a passion model, which is when I'm at work, man, I'm fully at work. Like I'm crushing it. I'm crushing my day. Yes, I'm not going to ghost and ignore my wife and stuff like that, right? Like, if she texts me, I might hit her back, but like, we've got that open communication of like, hey, I might be in a meeting or whatever, and I might just hit back K, or I might not respond and I'll have to call you back later, like, because I'm going to crush it at 19901 Townsend Boulevard. So when I leave, I can fully crush it with the family, and I'm not, unless someone's dying or there's emergency. You're not going to get me the same way that I'm going to respond to Kylie. Like, I might respond to people from work, like, hey, I'll get to that tomorrow.
Yeah. It's good.
Yeah. So yeah, I think you just have to have those systems in place, and you gotta, and it frees you up to go to work really hard and to not make working hard a curse, because it's not. And then you can be with your family all out 100% and not feel like you're cheating your job because you just spent all those days working really hard.
Yeah. Yeah. I love that. I actually love the passion model. I'm still in that. I'm using that. But yeah, sometimes I just put my phone do not disturb on my days off, and I'll get a Slack. I'll get a text, and I'll tell myself it could wait. It's not an emergency. And when I say it feels so good and freeing to know that I don't have to respond right away. If it's like you said, it's not someone dying or whatever the case may be, it's not like an emergency, it could wait. And like I said, just immersing myself with family, man, that's been the healthiest for me. It's just like putting my phone, do not disturb, and just being with my daughter and being with my wife. I obviously get some brownie points from, all that.
Well, I think another thing too, I got this journal. My wife got me this journal a while ago, and I'll link it in the show notes if I can remember what it was, but it was a gift. So if not, I apologize. but it's like this, like emotionally healthy, mind. And it's a secular journal. I don't think it's spiritual, but in
Yeah.
it every day, it makes you go, what are you going to do for yourself? Or it's like an hour. It's like, what are you going to do for an hour today that's just for you?
Yeah.
And some days, dude, it's really hard to fill that in. And then I realized, like, man, a dead battery can't jump anything.
Yes. Good.
And it's like, okay, even for me to be a good family man, I have to have something for me.
Yeah. Right.
So like, what is 1 hour? And maybe, I don't always hit an hour. Like maybe sometimes it's 30 minutes. And like, sometimes I literally do just friend level. Sometimes I'm just like, I'm going to finish my YouTube watch later playlist today. Like
Yeah.
for 30 minutes, like I'm going to finish that. Like that's going to be
That's
my
awesome.
thing.
Yeah.
And then sometimes it's like, hey, I want to go golf, like
Come on.
I'm going to go chip and putt around and then come home or whatever. But I think that's important too, man, for you to think about working that calendar too of like, okay, hey, what can you do? What can you do for an hour for you to just to be fueled and to be full? Because if you're going to embrace the passion model, you're going to have juice in the battery,
That's so good. That's really good.
And then one more thing, I would be remiss to say this if I didn't say this, because I am a pastor, trusty Bible. We just were going through this the other day. Our pastor was preaching through Joshua, and he was talking about, Moses is dead and the instructions that God is giving to Joshua. And it's the classic, we know this, but he's, chapter 1, verse 8, the book of the law should not depart from your mouth, but you should meditate on it day and night.
Yeah.
So you may be careful to according all that's written in it. And our pastor just painted this picture. He was like, man, everyone's always talking about like, get up early, be the devotion in the morning person. He's like, but like it says that it should not, you should meditate on it day and night. And he's like, I love the visual of Joshua at the beginning of the day, meditating, say, I need you to guide me today.
Yeah.
And then I love the visual at the end of the day, Joshua coming into the tent, a lot of drama that day, a lot of stuff he had to deal with that day, coming in, sitting down by lamplight going, I got to debrief my day because it was terrible today.
Yeah.
So I think, all the systems and all the leadership tricks of like, get up early to get in your Bible. I'm trying to push myself to, how do I get a day and night approach?
It's good.
How do I start my day in it?
Yeah.
And then end my day in it.
Yeah.
And kind of do the Joshua approach of like, hey, this is what I need for the day. And God, I got to get this stuff off my chest today.
Yeah.
Like,
100%.
So
yeah, 100%. Yeah. It's so refreshing too when you start your day like that. But it's also refreshing when you're in your day like that as well. Yeah. Getting stuff off your chest and just reflecting. That's good. That's powerful. It's good stuff. I'm gonna try it.
Yeah.
Especially
yeah. Well, work on that stuff. But thanks for jumping on today. And I hope the conversation about being healthy, leading healthy, pursuing passion, maybe over balance, helps you in your journey as you lead. And I hope some of these simple strategies help you scale your ministry and your leadership and your growth to levels that you haven't attained before. And we'll look forward to seeing y'all on the next episode.